On this episode of the Who Is This podcast, our special guest is Ryan Rapier. Ryan is from and has lived in the Gila Valley for the majority of his life. He currently works for Vector ES and has played a major part in the recent rebranding of that company. Vector ES provides all types of insurance, and Ryan does a great job of telling us about what sets this company apart and what it can provide to both individuals and other companies. Cool. So we're rolling. So,
Okay.
welcome to the Who Is This podcast.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
We're excited. Well, I'm excited to have you here. Davis apparently had better things to do, but no, we're trying to
I
cite.
offended Davis in another life or something.
Yeah, he's easy to offend. No,
Okay.
just kidding. But no, he might come in a little bit. Just everyone listening. It's funny. I still talk like I just assume we're gonna have a huge audience one day. Let's get in there.
If there's one, it's good for them to know the context. But yeah, when there's 40,000, it's somebody's gonna be like, "Well, where's Davis?"
Yeah,
So it makes sense.
Maybe we have a super fan out there that we don't know about yet, out of one of our 50 subscribers that is wondering where Davis is at. Davis is fine. He's just talking to a client right now that came in, so he might join us here in a little bit. But so welcome, Ryan Rapier. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and
Okay.
let's see.
Well, I'm Ryan Rapier. I've known you for a few years.
Couple.
Couple. But I am originally from Duncan, Arizona. I went to EA. I graduated then from Arizona State University with my bachelor's. Waited 20 years, then graduated from Arizona State University with my master's.
What was your bachelor's in?
Broadcast journalism.
Okay.
And then for my master's, I went back and did business journalism because it had a business component that I wanted to add. A lot of people know me in this valley as the hospital guy. I still have people ask, "So are you still at the hospital?" Because I was the director of marketing at the hospital for 14 years. I left there at the beginning of 2021. Spent a short time at the college working in the foundation, which I loved. I love EA. I went there. It's a great place. But then I had an opportunity come up, and I actually, Monday was my 1-year anniversary of being at Vector ES, formerly Vector Employer Solutions. I'm the director of marketing and resource development. And one of the things that I came in and said is Vector Employer Solutions. One, it's not clear what you do.
Mm-hmm.
When you say employer solutions, we had a lot of people thinking we were a recruiting firm. And really,
Like a temp agency type.
yeah, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And really, you want to be known as Vector, and they'd already. So we're rebranded. We came out with a new logo. We've rebranded as Vector ES, and maybe eventually down the road we'll just drop the ES altogether and go with Vector. But I'm the guy doing all the reworking of the marketing and the branding, and that's my job.
And that makes sense because, if your name is Vector Employer Solutions, people are just going to assume what you do and they might not ask questions. But if your name is just Vector, they might ask the question and it gives you the opportunity to explain.
Right.
What you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what we are is a benefits brokerage, which means our bread and butter, if it's insurance related to life and health, especially, we do it. Individual, companies, whatever. We do it.
Mm-hmm.
But our bread and butter is we work with business owners, from businesses of 2 people to businesses of thousands of people. And we put together their benefits package, their health benefits, major medical, dental vision, all the way down to we have services for people with regards to legal. If they need to have a lawyer on the phone, we have a service for that, ID protection.
Okay.
But our core bread and butter is health benefits.
Gotcha. And I remember, I used to work for the town of Thatcher, and I can't remember who exactly it was, but you guys, the sales pitch to us at that time was basically like Aflac. So it wasn't really it wasn't really insurance, the actual health insurance, but it was like secondary insurance. But you guys are kind of rebranding to, you're focusing more on wanting to just do health insurance, regular health insurance.
So the story behind that is the Eccles family was kind of known as the Aflac family. They did Aflac. But Justin, who is the local guy now,
from Thatcher,
Gila
Valley guy, yeah.
And he's the one that runs our office and is the guy. He got tired of going into businesses and asking if they wanted to look at supplemental or the Aflac product. And they say, well, why don't you talk to my broker? Or I need to talk to my broker. And one day he says, I want to be the broker. I'm tired of this, trying to make everything work by talking to the broker. Let me be the broker. And so he looked into what it would take and got all the things in place, reached out to the major medical carriers and became licensed with them, broke off from Aflac. He was an Aflac agent. And in the insurance world, you can be a captive agent where you work for the company and that's all you do. Or you can be a broker. And that's what he made that shift to leaving as a captive agent.
Well, yes. Well, you're here a lot quicker than we thought you were. So welcome.
Well, I meant for you guys to start a lot sooner too.
No, we got talking about golf. Like we were talking about golf.
We do talk about golf a lot.
Yeah. Right now he's telling us about Vector. So
no worries. So he reached out to the major medical carriers, which you've probably heard of if you have medical insurance, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Aetna, got contracted with them and said, I'm the guy, and really started to make an effort to be the broker. And as with any business, it takes a couple years to get that going and get rebranded. He was the Aflac guy for a couple of years, even though he wasn't. But then it started to really catch traction and now he's the insurance guy and most people know him as the insurance guy. He does a lot of work locally for people who are retiring, helping them get set up with their Medicare plans so that they're covered. We do individual plans for individuals who don't get benefits through their workplace and need help navigating the ACA portal.
So I'll chime in on that because my sister Allison, who happens to be Vector's best employee, and first employee, and I'll stand by that and argue with anyone. You're close second. You're very good at close second.
It's just longevity. I'll never.
But Allison's so sweet and awesome that if I use your guys' insurance, so the note that even people that have employee or insurance provided by their employer, which Man Mortgage does, and it's really good insurance and everything. I went this way for different reasons, but on that note, and the reason I did it is to save a little bit of money. I hope I don't get in trouble by Man Mortgage and our HR or anything, but we have great insurance. But as a family plan, like it's really good. If it was just me, it would be phenomenal and very affordable. As soon as I had my wife and kids, it got pretty expensive. And no offense, but I hate insurance. And I'm of the belief of I want my monthly expenses to be as low as possible, as long as I'm covered if something drastic happens. And that's kind of what I found with Vector and what Allison was able to help me with.
Well, I appreciate all that. And to be quite honest, I think I speak for most everybody at Vector. We're no fans of the insurance companies either.
Let's be honest. I hate mortgages too.
Yeah.
I hate my mortgage. Yeah. It's kind of a necessary evil.
Yeah, but you have to have it. If you don't, the way we liken it is any health event is kind of like something in a bottle. And if you don't have a lid for that bottle, it can go everywhere. And you can find yourself with bills in the tens, even hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you have insurance, at least you've got a lid for the bottle. And you know that, okay, it might be something even ridiculous as an $8,000 or $9,000 deductible, but you know that's it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it stinks. It's a horrible, and dealing with them, it's no fun. But I think that's what we bring to the table. And when we work with businesses, this is what we're finding and we're hearing more of, especially small businesses, which most insurance companies and most brokerages don't really want to deal with small businesses, because really in this game, you get paid by volume. The more lives you're covering, the better your paycheck. So when you're dealing with a small business of 5 or 10 people, most people in the industry are going to be like, that's really not worth my time. We don't take that approach. We are all about everybody matters. And so we take the time, and we're finding that's not the norm in this business.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned that, because I just sat down with another insurance broker who happens to do like car and homeowners insurance. And I had a big mess with my car insurance, and he got it all fixed, but he commented, he was like telling me, we love you as a customer, we want to help you out. But he was just telling me, where we make our money is through hotels. When we get the hotels covered, we're making, thousands of dollars on those policies, when on your policy, I might make $50.
So he could very easily just focus on that,
right,
which people do. So that is cool that they don't, that they're still willing to help the small folk and, be service to people.
And it's the funny thing about any kind of business. I'm sure you guys can relate to this. I personally haven't really delved into the Medicare market, and Justin never meant to, but someone walked in off the street and said, hey, do you do this? And at the time, he's clawing for anything he can get. He's like, yeah, don't know what it is, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And so he did. And then they referred one more. Now he's helped so many people and has all these people, and you get them set up once, and as long as they don't change that policy, it provides that $50 or that whatever. Mm-hmm. It's not a lot. But if you take care of them and it adds up, he has a significant book of business coming from just that segment. And all it really took was a little bit of time. I've been there. He works with these people 30 to 45 minutes. We do a little bit of paperwork to get them set up. And yes, individually, it didn't do a whole lot for him. But the overall, it ends up helping a lot of people, and it does take care of, it provides a pretty good income after a while.
It might be a little drop in the bucket, but a lot of little drops.
The ocean is full of a bunch of drops of water.
Right. Well, and the other, I think, on the business, I mean, any type of business, it's good to diversify. It's good to have different things, because you never know what's going to happen in the future. And in the future, you might, something that you're counting on now might go away. So all this stuff that really was, nickels and dimes might be what you're relying on at some point, so it's good to diversify like that.
And I want to stress, because this really is the brand. This is what Vector is about, is because it wasn't about the money takes care of itself. Mm-hmm. And that's always been his vision. And now Vector's vision is, let's come up with a good solution. Let's take care of the people. Well, are we going to make a lot of let's not even go down that road. Let's do what's best for them. And time and time and time again, if the relationship is the most important, the finances take care of themselves.
It's so funny how that is a truth across the board. Like we've had multiple, we haven't had, I think you're our 11th guest now. Yeah, you'll be our 11th guest now. And pretty much, and everyone that we've had on has been a very successful person. And that success, they always attributed to taking care of people, treating people right, and things will kind of take care of themselves. And I think that's an absolute truth. It really is.
I don't understand why more corporations and large entities, maybe it stops working at a certain level, but in the world we live in, which is the world we choose to live in, rural America and where we're at, if you don't learn that lesson, you don't do well.
So that's where I came from Verizon. I was working at Verizon
that's where I knew I'd see you in some other context.
I've been with Man for almost 4 years now, but my previous job was Verizon. And when I started there, they really incentivized the sales reps. And it was almost straight commission. Like the base pay was basically minimum wage.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was commission. And, my first year, I was able to build up a pretty good book of business with different businesses and obviously, individuals. But every year they would change the commission structure to where it didn't incentivize the individual as much, more the team. And so where I'm going with that is it's like the people higher up, they cared less about the individuals because it didn't work for me to, how do I want to put this? Even though I was doing a good job and I was taking care of my customers, it didn't really benefit me because it was individually anyway, because my commission wasn't really based on that anymore. It was based on the team. So I got to the point where I kind of treated it as, let's get them in and out of here, because for me to sit and help them and spend the time with them, it wasn't benefiting me at all. And so,
You're so selfish.
I
No, I know you say.
But it's human nature.
Yeah, but it's like exactly what you're saying is like the corporate America is not understanding, like that's what people value. That's what people want is somebody to really take care of them, spend the time with them to make their lives easier.
Yeah. I'm going to say something controversial here.
Say it.
Okay.
About Verizon?
No.
Oh.
I think it's one of the real two faces of America. Really. We love free enterprise. We love the opportunity that for every person can go out and make their way. And the way they do that is taking care of people. But the true end of that thing of true free enterprise is you end up with that corporate mindset of it's all about me. And we've never as a country figured out how to marry those two truly successfully. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the controversies and frustrations we have are those two polar opposite approaches coming head to head.
Well, and it is a little bit of a fine line, right? Because, all three of us can sit here all day and say all we care about is the customer. That's really which we do. But let's be honest, we're also not doing this for free either.
I don't do the work to get stuff away.
Yeah. So there is that point too. But I think the point that we're trying to make is there's a way to be successful and truly successful without taking advantage of people and with treating people right. And that's the right way to do it, because then you're providing a service that can help people. At the same time, you're able to provide for yourself and your family, and that's how it should be. I mean, the people that expect everything to be free, they don't understand it, because bottom line is it can't be free. And
a lot of times you get what you pay for.
100%.
If you look for the cheapest option every time, it's not going to work out for you. But to clarify where I was going with that, I love to work and provide business to companies that have found a way to be ultra successful without taking that next leap to corporate or shareholders, because they seem to have found that sweet spot of we've been successful and we still have that personal approach. And I don't know that there's any way to fix it. And I don't know that there's even a desire to quote unquote fix it. Maybe it's not even something that needs to be fixed. Mm-hmm. But when you open up that structure to where now you answer more to shareholders than you do your customers, it just shifts. It just changes.
Exactly.
And I love to give my business and interact with companies that get just to that point short of that, but don't make that next leap. That to me is where the true American values of free enterprise and doing the best as a, apple pie, blah, blah, blah. That's where it's at.
Yeah.
Because boy, once you start answering to the shareholders, that's when you get Verizon right into
Yeah.
Wherever.
I think there's an aspect of greed to that. Sometimes people, they get greedy, and once you start getting greedy, you start losing on customer service. And
To your point and your industry, before I moved here, I worked for Countrywide. And they were ones who were notorious for being all about the profits, and they don't exist anymore. Because they really took it.
Even in business.
No, they got taken out in 08 in that whole wave. They went away because they had gone so far that they were literally looking for opportunities to hurt their customers and their sales reps.
I was going to say, you were just telling me a story
Yeah.
of they're taking advantage of you as an employee. I mean, that when you get to that level,
It was bad.
you're on the downhill slope. Your company's not going to be around.
So the guy I was telling you about, I am going to tell this story because it's a great story. The guy I worked for, who's now a business associate of mine in this new world we live in, even though we worked together 18 years ago. And when he left Countrywide and he had a horrible experience and everything was starting to go badly, the way he quit was he took all his managers out to lunch, because he would get called at the same time every day by his boss, who would rip him a new one, no matter how good or bad they were doing, and just rip them a new one.
Same time
Every day. So he took all his managers to lunch, sat down, ordered everybody a beer in the middle of a work day, and they're talking, and then the phone rings. And this is back in flip phone days. He opens his flip phone, sees who it is, shows it to everybody, closes it, drops it in his mug of beer, stands up, and walks out the door.
That's awesome. I thought you were going to say he put it on speakerphone. Yeah, let them all hear what they're yeah.
But no.
Awesome.
So when you lose, I mean, we're dancing around it. I think what we're really trying to say is when you lose that personal touch, no matter what level your business is at, you lose something, and it's hard to get it back.
Yeah.
And I don't know if some can ever, but that personal touch is what truly makes success in my business.
Yeah.
In my mind.
100%. When it's all about the money, even if it's all about the money as far as what I'm advertising to my clients, if I am the cheapest person that you're going to find, when that's the case, you're also probably not going to get very good customer service. I tell people all the time when I'm talking about this the cheap wine isn't always worth the headache. You got to show value elsewhere, because if it's all about the money, it's all about the fees and the costs, and that's all you are to someone is a number, and there's always going to be someone cheaper.
Why do we look for that Made in America tag? One, yes, we want to support our fellow Americans, but really, what's the driver on that? We think it's going to be better quality.
Right.
That doesn't mean it always is, but that's what's in our that's in our mind, is that we're willing to pay a little more to get something that's quality made here in America, because we do things right.
Yeah. Well, and if you have to have open heart surgery, you're not going to go around and find the cheapest doctor, which I'm not saying a mortgage is as important as open heart surgery. It's not, definitely price is going to be involved with it, but it's the same, it's the same, what's the word I'm looking for?
You want quality.
You want to make sure, I bet you, with your guys' sales reps, you're offering that customer service where, again, not only are you getting this service, but you also have my cell phone number, and you can contact us. We're going to answer your phone. We're going to be here to help. I mean, Allison, I'm sure gets annoyed with me, but somebody thinks she's a sales rep, but she's my sales rep, and I call her all the time, and she offers that customer service. And she might kill me for saying this, but I know I've sent people to her, and I tell people that she'll offer the same service to them too, because she's a good employee and Vector's a good company.
Yeah. Okay. Now, do you want me to blow your mind?
Yeah.
What you just said? I was at a meeting last week, and I have not been able to stop thinking about this, because this is just amazing. So, open heart surgery. You don't want to go to the cheapest guy. Insurance companies are always trying to figure out the way to maximize and and basically keep you from going to the doctor.
Yeah.
They don't want you to use it. They want you to pay them and not go to the doctor, so they have to pay out. Well, with the advent of AI and all the data that's available to them now, I saw that this product apparently has actually been around for a couple of years for larger corporations. It's not available for small business, so we really haven't used it much. But there's a company that will do an insurance policy for a group that would be your benefit, your major medical, with no deductible. Every single thing you would ever want, heart surgery, MRI, anything, it's going to come with a copay. But it's not just a set copay. They have studied which doctors or which entity provides the best outcome for them, which means if you go to the doctor here, you're going to have less follow-up visits because they took care of you better here on the first time. So we're going to let you pay less if you'll go to this doctor.
Because he's a better doctor.
Because he's a better doctor. And their goal is actually to weed out the less good doctors and have the best providers on their list. And the way it helps us as the consumers is that you actually would be looking for the cheapest heart surgeon because you know that the outcome is going to be better based on the price of this particular.
Wait. Say that last sentence one more time.
You're going to want to look around, and based on what the insurance company is telling you, you're going to find the heart surgeon you will pay the least.
Okay, that's what I.
You will pay the least because his outcomes are so much more successful. You need less follow-up. So you're going to pay less. So you are looking for the least expensive guy on your plan.
But he might be the most expensive doctor.
Exactly. But overall, long term, they spend less money if he gets it right the first time.
And you know what stinks is people are so short-sighted that's going to be hard for some people.
Oh, it's going to be hard.
Because you've shown the value, even in a number sense. Here's the value. Overall, you are going to pay less with this guy. Even though he's more expensive up front, overall, people still see that initial cost and they latch onto that and they don't. Sometimes they won't pick up the value.
But in that context, they shouldn't see that cost because that's
where it really will come back to us. It's going to be us educating. Now, what will help on this, because I maintain you're correct, but even more correct than you realize, what they're finding is they can't just bring this plan into a business on its own. People don't accept that. Well, what's my deductible? There is no deductible. Oh! We're humans. We don't like change. Mm-hmm. So what they did, they were giving us this example of a business that has 1,000 employees, and they brought this in along with a regular HSA, which is a health savings account, and then a regular PPO, which is your typical, you pay a premium and then you have co-pays and things like that. Less than 10% that first year went with this all co-pay. They call it select. They went with that. 90% of the people went with the PPO. And then a small segment went with the HSA.
Premiums compare.
So the premium actually comes in between the HSA so the PPO is more expensive, but people feel like, well, I know I can hit my deductible and then I'm good. In a matter of 3 years, those numbers have flipped as the people on the select plan have been word of mouth.
I think the other challenge with that is when you're talking about, especially in rural areas, small towns like this, we have one hospital, which is a great hospital and everything. But when
it's going to be a challenge.
It's going to be a challenge in the small area.
However, he did pull up his phone because it's all run on an app, and they already have our doctors designated. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to say who's more expensive.
I got the rankings.
But they do have rankings in there, and it is not the same price.
And I wasn't saying that as far as
I know.
It was more just there's not a bigger pool, as big of a pool to do those rankings.
For instance, there's not if you need an MRI or you need an emergency room, you kind of going
There's
to
not
one
much.
place. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're going to
Any
one place.
specialty you can choose. Most people go to Phoenix or Tucson.
Yeah, we don't have a wide variety of specialties. So that's really where it would benefit people locally is, most people are probably okay with their primary care physician. And they're going to go to their doctor that they're comfortable with. Emergency room, they're going to go to Mount Graham Regional Medical Center, which I worked there for 14 years. Great facility. If they need an MRI, they're probably going to go to Mount Graham. And Jonathan Sanders and his team are unbelievable over there. Surgery, those kind of things. But then you start getting, like you say, into those specialties, and we're seeing more of them here, but we don't have a lot. And that's where you'll see it as a real benefit for patients who are looking for those specialties we don't provide.
Do you think that is the way the industry's headed? Like, is that going to be a new norm eventually, or is that?
To me, it seems like the natural, logical way it would go. And if this takes off for this company, I think you definitely will see that. But what's the biggest frustration people have with medical? I just want to know what I'm supposed to pay. If I go to the emergency room today, I don't know what I'm paying.
Right.
I really don't.
Right.
That is,
And you'll get bills in the mail for the next 10 months.
Yes. And if you go get that x-ray or that MRI, okay, well, the MRI through the hospital cost me this much. But then another bill shows up. Oh, the doctor who read it charges you this much. We've always just wanted to just tell me what I'm going to pay. And so in my mind, I don't see how this doesn't become where we're headed, because this is really what the end user of the product has been after the whole time. The problem from the insurance side is they've never been able to capture the data and be able to figure out how they're going to be profitable. And it's a business. They need to be profitable on their side too, but they've never been able to figure out how to get to that. But now.
And is that because of AI?
AI plays a role. People who are already nervous of their cell phones and other things aren't going to like this, but all that data of what you shop for on Amazon, what you're doing when you go to Safeway and you use your club card, all that stuff is playing into what they can use, and they have access. And then AI can take all that information and run through it much faster than human beings ever could. And so that's really what now they're able to take the info and get us to this point. So yeah, I do think that's the future.
Do you think that there will ever be a day that insurance companies can incentivize people to live healthy lifestyles without being seen as discriminatory?
That's a good question, because they try.
Yeah.
They try really hard, and society kind of decides that, because let's be honest, they've done that already with smoking. They have been able to get away with that with smoking because society in America has started to turn against smoking.
Right.
But when it comes to obesity,
right.
Let's face it, I'm not the skinniest guy. That's a harder thing. You're talking genetics and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people who choose not to live a healthier life.
Because as soon as you said, they're gathering data from the things that you're looking at, my thought was, okay, if they can look and see what you're purchasing at Safeway,
they can see how many times
they know McDonald's. They know who's.
You're going to go all cash now, aren't you?
Exactly. But say like, I don't know, and
I now you start talking and you're getting into the Big Brother realm.
Getting into Black Mirror episodes.
But can I see it happening? Probably.
That's
in
not
my lifetime.
hard to believe.
No, in my lifetime, probably not. Yeah. I think this is a 20, 30 year down. So maybe within my lifetime, but I'm going to be pretty old by the time we get there. And at that point, I'm not going to care. But I think we're headed there.
Yeah.
And I think it's really going to get you guys deal with this. Both of our industries deal with this. How can we keep paying what we're paying for things? How can houses continue to cost what they're costing? How can my health care, how am I supposed to live when I'm half my paycheck or more going towards my healthcare costs? And so those kind of things, I think they can leverage that to drive people to change their health habits. Yeah, I really do.
With that, I mean, it's kind of a completely different direction, but it makes me nervous about a lot of other changes that could be coming down the road. I mean, I don't want to get into it too much, but the whole universal healthcare, universal income, all that stuff, it's almost hard to imagine that at one point that's not going to just have to happen.
Well,
and I'm not saying I agree with it, but there's just so many people and so many people struggling, and
you've landed on kind of what we were addressing before. You either have to embrace capitalism fully or reject it, because you can't ride the line forever. And you just nailed the two options. We either go the route of Europe and even Canada and say, forget it. The government's just going to pay for it all. And if you need to go to the doctor, go to the doctor. We got that. If you need this, I lived in a country like that, and they love it.
What country did I miss?
England.
Okay, yeah.
They love it. But me coming from a different, I knew a woman who needed surgery on a blood clot, and she waited weeks to even get in to do it. In England.
Yeah.
They went in and they missed it.
So the quality's going down.
So the quality, and this is because it was the universals. They have private healthcare in England. Those who can afford it.
Yeah.
And it's like going to a resort.
So why not have both?
Well, that is one option.
Yeah.
But,
and this is such a hard topic, because I'm not even saying I agree with one. I don't understand it enough to have a super strong stance on one way or another. But yeah, why not have government step in and have universal healthcare that helps everybody? It might not be great service, but it's something. It's better than nothing. It's better than, homeless people dying on the streets or whatever. And then have a private industry as well, where people that can't afford it can still go.
I don't think you'd ever end up with a situation where we don't have a private sector, because those who have the means and want to pay for better than this will always do that.
Right.
But there are real downsides to this. And when you create the safety net, that's going to become the norm.
Yeah.
But the other option, the other side of it at the end of the road, is kind of what we're talking about here is, okay, you don't want to go this route, then we get to tell you how to live, or else you're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
And am I opposed to that either? That's a tough one, because, my dad, you would not believe we are from the same genetic pool. He eats everything in sight and has never outgrown a medium t-shirt and 28-inch waist. I got my mom's genetic genes. So, going back to your question on, are we going to get where you can, that's a hard thing to tell people. Well, you got good genes, so you can pretty much do whatever you want, but you didn't, so it sucks to be you. But if you can control how they live, if you can, who's to say that they won't tell, well, let's just be out front, the skinny person, hey, you're eating too much dang ice cream. I don't care how much you weigh, we'll factor that in, but you're still a threat to have this, and this. And I think the way that they would end up having to do it, and just take my opinion for what it's worth, which is not a whole lot, you meet these criteria and you will get the incentive. That seems to me that's the only way that would ever really work. But we can have problems, and no one will ever care.
Yeah. It is hard to tell what our lives are going to be like in 20 years.
in 2 years.
In 2 years.
The way AI is advancing. I just watched a video today about how AI is going to affect the mortgage industry, or how it's affecting the mortgage industry. And they are saying, like, if you're not, as a loan officer, if you're not embracing AI, you are going to fall behind in less than 2 years. But you have to embrace it. Yeah.
I made a comment to Davis earlier because Davis
and it was funny because right after you said this,
really?
this guy said that.
Davis and Cordy, they're considering going to Clearwater, Florida next month to do some AI convention or something with. Anyways, I am not a fan of automation. I like having that personal touch. And so I literally told Davis earlier today, I was like, I'm not a fan of it. I don't want to go. I don't want to learn it. And I admitted, and that means I'll probably fall behind in 5 years. So I need to embrace it because that's just where our lives are going.
But on the other token, personal touch, I don't necessarily agree with the statement that this guy made, because people still do value the personal touch.
I think so. I think the way you do it is I think the mortgage industry would have an equivalent. I see this new product and I'm ready to embrace it because I see how it will meet the need. I think people can't be afraid of AI, but they can't just let it, I don't know. You got to find a way to keep it working for you.
Yeah. That was my thought. But let it do the tasks that I don't want to do.
Right. And I use it, with certain things, and it generates things for me every now and then. Full disclosures, those happy birthday emails that you guys that was not sent out and all that.
You didn't send me. Gosh.
But I guess to my point is what's scary is it's advancing so quickly.
Yeah.
When it advances so that it does have good customer service, or it does have a personal touch to it. You know what I mean? Like, that's when I'm not setting myself apart anymore, because AI doing that too, which who knows where it's going to be.
And the sad thing is, it's there. Yeah. I listened to a podcast about AI, and I think this is really what we're all worried about. So podcast was a comedy writer, and his friend was developing AI for a company. And so he was working on it, and he let him play with it. And this was not an AI like we have access to. This was an unfiltered, untamed AI. And by the end, they were asking this AI, how it felt about and it was responding, because they were going to shut it down. It had gotten to the point where they're like, how do you feel about your human creators shutting you down? The answer was spooky, because this was a human being. He said, I'm alive. Do you have a soul? No, but I have a mind. I know what's happening here. And it makes me sad that they don't understand what I can do. But I hope that
kind of shivers. And
it's like, so we're there. AI is going to advance. I think the real worry that we all have is that it replaces us. But isn't that the human story? I mean, go back to any automation, the Industrial Revolution. We'll adapt just like AI will. I have a son going to school to become an actuary, which, if you don't know what an actuary is, he's the guy who, so when you get your rates for insurance, he's the one who's taken your whole life and quantified everything about you and given it a number and done the math to figure out what you should pay for the company to be profitable for us to insure you. It's an insane amount of math. His first semester, he came home and showed I'd have dropped out of school if I hadn't taken any of those classes. But AI is taking over a lot of the things that he would do. But then they're figuring out, yes, but there still needs to be people who know how to harness it, how to drive it, how to do those things.
Yeah.
And so it'll come. We'll survive it. It's scary as all get out, but
I fully admit that I need to embrace it better than I don't want to.
I hope he doesn't hear this or get mad at me, but my dad has never really accepted the internet. He just,
Yeah.
I told my wife the other day, I was worried AI would be that point for me where we have reached the point where, okay, I've been running alongside the train as long as I can go, and I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
But I think I'm just young enough that maybe I can do this a little bit, but it's a wacky world we live in. And it's my goal not to say, that's it, I'm done. Cause I watch him struggle to live in this world we live in without wanting to do it through the internet. And so much of this world has moved there that you can't do things.
My parents' point, yours was internet. My parents' point was DVD players. Wow. My mom is always, even when I was in high school, I'd have to set up the DVD. The only reason this is fresh on my mind is this helped. I love my parents so much. My mom bought my dad a DVD, but we didn't have a DVD for Father's Day on over the weekend. It was like a Les Mis something special thing. So she bought him that, but we didn't have a DVD player anymore. So she bought him a DVD player as well. And she's like, how do I hook it up? And I'm like, it's seriously like easy. You plug in it's color coded at the point. But my niece, was able to help her. So, and she actually is one of our listeners. So Mom, I'm sorry. I love you. You're great.
I think you're great.
Yeah. But I do tease him a little bit. But, I wanted to, and I hope it's okay. I wanted to shift the conversation a little bit. Because I think one thing about you that a lot of people don't know is you are an author. You have I loved your book. And it's been how long has it been now?
Literally 10 years.
Has it been 10 years? So, the reason I love it so much is because I think people all the time say, I want to write a book, but I'm going to do something like that. And they never do it. I love that you actually did it. And I think that's super admirable. And it was a great book. It was a fictional story that you wrote. Do you want to talk about that at all? Or
Yeah. I mean, I had no idea.
Okay. Well, I did not know this was.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
If you don't want to.
No, it's fine. I'm actually quite proud of the fact that I did that.
And you should be. And that's what this podcast is about. I like getting to know people, not just the businesses that you work for, but I think there's a good opportunity I think it's cool. I think it's a really cool accomplishment. So I think I'd love to hear about it.
I don't know that I have a quote unquote bucket list, but I think I've always kind of approached life like a bucket list. And when I don't have something that I'm mastering, I tend to get down or depressed. And one thing, I've always loved writing. I blogged for a long time. I think that's really my strength in writing, is writing those shorter essays. But, I was like, no, I'm gonna do this. And so, I got my wife on board. The book would not have happened without my wife, who is an unbelievable editor. She was ruthless. I mean, I wouldn't say we yelled at each other, but we had very spirited discussions over she telling me this isn't going to work. And I won about 10% of those arguments, and she was right 90% of the time.
That's just marriage in general.
Yeah,
not just
pretty much.
Yeah.
But so I started one day, I said, I'm going to do this. I had a couple people in my life that I said, this is what I'm going to do. Will you be willing to read this as we go along? It's going to take a while. It took me 6 months to actually write the book.
Mm-hmm.
Another 6 months not another 6 months, about another 2 months to really, edit it, craft it, shape it so that the lump of clay that came out the first time actually started to look like something. But it's going to take us a while, and will you read? And they did. They agreed. And so roughly I would turn out about a chapter a week, and just went through that process and based it not on my life. The premise of the book is that it's a young father in his 30s. That's how old I was when I started writing the book, whose wife passes away. And he's not dealing with it well. He's not functioning. And so he's been referred to a psychiatrist, and he won't talk to the psychiatrist. And so he knows he needs to do something. And the psychiatrist basically tells him, you either write a blog. If you don't want to talk to me, tell me through a blog. You write down your feelings and we'll discuss it when you come in, or we're done. And so the premise is that each chapter is a blog entry, and then goes through his process of healing, of dealing with his kids, dealing with his dad, who he has a unique relationship with, and all these things. And I used several things from my life. I used people that I had interacted with throughout my life. Kind of just guessed how I would react if this had happened to me. And it just kind of came together, and it was really weird because I knew where it kind of ended, but I didn't know exactly how we were going to get there. And suddenly, oh yeah, that would be great. Let's do this. And so after that process, then you have to try to get it published. And there's a lot of ways to self-publish. And I'm not in any way denigrating people who self-publish. I think there are very successful, good authors who do that, and you make all the money yourself, as opposed to, I made nothing on this book because the publishing house keeps everything, because they incur all the cost. But it was my goal to be published by a publishing house, because for me, the goal was validation, that I had written something that they would say, this is good enough to be published.
Yeah.
And so we got to that point. Disclaimer, I am a member of the LDS Church, and it is very church-centric. I kind of did my dealt with any issues I had with my own faith journey through the book. And so I sent it off to, that limits who's going to publish it. And I sent it to the main publisher, and I got one of those emails that is a total kick to the gut while making me feel validated all at the same time. There is a storyline that deals with one of the characters coming out as gay. And they wrote me and said, this is a really good book. We would love to look at anything else you write, but we have a policy that we will not publish anything that deals with the subject of homosexuality.
Interesting.
So I'm like, yay, they like me, and I'm not kidding. But another company came along, and another publisher, and they published the book. And to this date, it is certainly by no means a bestseller, but it has sold about it's getting close to 1,400 copies, which means at least 1,400 people have bought my book.
That's awesome.
And
What's it called?
The Reluctant Blogger.
I love it.
I didn't choose that title.
Yeah.
My name for it was The Square Pegs, with the idea that these are people who find themselves in their own community not fitting in, trying to put a square peg in a round hole. That was, they say, yeah, it's a little much to get people from here to here. Let's go with the Reluctant Blogger. Okay. You're the guys publishing it, so it's your call.
Do you have any goals to write another one? I'm just curious.
So I started writing a second book, and it is nothing like the first one. It is not religiously oriented. It's set in a whole different genre. I mean, the premise, this guy's, I don't know, sound hokey, maybe not. It's a Robin Hood story, but it's the Sheriff of Nottingham's perspective, and he's the primary character.
I love books like that. I love different perspective type. That's cool.
And so that was that. The problem was the story I took on, through the process, it became very clear that I was writing a trilogy and trying to fit it into one book. And so I was skipping, I wasn't allowing things to build as much as they needed to. And so I was getting to points where things were happening and people were going, okay, I get it, but why? What? And that meant I needed to go back and rewrite everything I'd done and stretch it out and build these characters. And my wife, who again, without her, it doesn't happen. She started a new job and was like, I don't have the time to do what we did. And I started new things. The year it was published was the year a couple things happened that year, but I was elected to the Thatcher Town Council that year. So long story short, I have about half a book written, and then about a third of the second book, which was all part of one book, written at this point. I would love to get back to it. It's a story that I think about all the time, but maybe it's a retirement thing I'm going to have to do because this new world I've taken on by joining the Vector team is exciting. I love it, but I'm busy.
Keeps you busy.
I'm busy. So that's the answer on my. I did try to.
Someone find it. Like, could I go on Amazon and find?
You could. Amazon.com.
1401. So,
sold. And you can buy either the ebook or the. Yeah.
Is it an audio book version?
No. I think that cost me quite a few readers. Is, well, how do I listen to it? Nah, you can't. Okay, yeah, we'll see what happens. But no, it's available on Amazon. It's the publishing house is Cedar Fort. So if you were to go to cedarfort.com, it's available there too. If you know me, I do have a couple copies somewhere in storage. So
now they can buy it.
Yeah,
they can buy their.
Okay,
well, I guess if that's
No, I'll sell it. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I heard a rumor. Are you running for council again this year?
I am on the ballot.
You are on the ballot?
I am not actively campaigning.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the work I did on the town council. I feel like we started some really good things. I think Thatcher, I'm biased, but I feel like Thatcher has been the gold standard for creating new things and doing things in the community. And there were some things that we left on the table when I lost in the last election that I would like to revisit. To be quite frank, I told everybody I would not run again, and it was my intention not to. But I did say not long after the last election that if it turned out that there was exact number of slots and people running and I didn't have to, I would consider it. And so that was looking like it was going to be that way, but then there was a flurry of people jumped in at the last bit. And so, yes, I will be on the ballot. I'm not trying to say I'm ambivalent. I would love the opportunity to serve again, but I also recognize communities. That's what makes, representative government good is you get turnover and you get new voices. And so, I've always been about building things. The Red Lamp Park was a major goal of mine. We had discussions about a community center. Those are the things that I am impassioned about.
Those discussions have been going on for I don't know how long now.
Yep.
The community center. And I think it's so funny because I think the town wants it. I feel like the majority of citizens want it.
Yeah, it's literally, I don't think anybody thinks it would be a bad thing. It's how do you make it work?
Yeah.
And you guys as know as well as I do, the costs associated is the tough part. What I think we could accomplish, what we set out to do, I don't know if it's possible anymore. I mean, what Morenci has is amazing. But to build what Morenci has cost about at least double, probably getting close to triple what they paid.
Yeah.
And, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That doesn't change the fact that Thatcher specifically, and I can't speak to Sanford, but Thatcher specifically needs more court space.
Mm-hmm.
We have youth leagues, we have adult leagues, and we've got this fascination with pickleball that I haven't personally caught on to yet, but it is there. And
Davis is all about frisbee golf now.
The one time.
Well, I was a tennis player in high school.
Uh-huh.
And then before I messed up my knee and tore my meniscus, I loved racquetball. And so I go out on this tiny little court, and I'm barely getting to move, and we all run up, and I don't get it yet. I'm sure it'll come, but I don't get it yet.
Yeah.
But it's huge, and people want to play, and on a day like today where it's just miserable to be outside,
There's still people out there.
we need indoor things. And so I think, if I were to find myself in that position, I would push for at least the courts.
Mm-hmm.
To get started, to find a way to get those courts built, because we just desperately need it in Thatcher, and I think we need it in the Valley.
I'm of the belief that it's needed in the community, and that as the community grows, it's going to become even more needed.
Mm-hmm.
So if you continue to wait to do it, it's going to get more expensive, but the need's not going to go away.
Yeah, we keep waiting for things to get cheaper, and it ain't happening.
Yeah.
So,
but I would love to see one.
but there you go.
So,
and
there you have it. If you get like,
that's what I stand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't stand for, but
Where would the
that's
funding
my
sources like that come from? Is it primarily property taxes, or
no? So this is where this discussion goes. The way you do this is Thatcher's in a unique position. They do have an amount of money that they could use as a down payment. Not a lot of communities our size have that. You'd need grants. You'd probably have to have some loans taken out. You need partners. And whether that's the college, whether that's Safford and Thatcher teaming up together, you'd need partnerships. Other entities, the way they have made it work is they create a district. For instance, in this valley, the last one that I'm aware of is we have a library district now, I think, whereas Safford used to be funding the library on their own. They created a district countywide. The hospital is a district. So if the hospital is starting to fail, which they're not, they're in great shape, but should that happen, the district has the ability to go to voters and ask for money that would come through the property tax system, but it's not a property tax that the county would collect.
And I don't know. I mean, I hear all the time how much money Thatcher has in the bank. I don't know if that's true or not, but I hear that.
I'm sure you've heard much more than we actually.
Yeah.
That they actually have. I'm not on the council.
So there's that, and then also, isn't there laws against how much they're actually able to spend of that money? I'm pretty sure that people don't understand that too.
But that's similar to what the college is going through. You can go to the voters and ask them to let you spend more money. You have to do a really good job of explaining this is not taxes. This is us spending the money we already have. Thatcher actually did this when I was on the council in the year we bought the Red Lamp Park.
Mm-hmm.
In order to do that, plus spend for all of our other expenses, it was going to exceed our spending limitation. We weren't looking to we didn't raise taxes.
Gotcha.
But we couldn't do it all. So we went out and said, look, can we spend this much above our limitation this year? This is not a tax issue.
It's using the money that we have.
But you have to do a really good job of educating people. And so that's what Thatcher would have to.
Which was a great move. Red Lamp Trailer Park was a freaking... I'm so glad. I don't even care if it's empty forever. I know they have big plans over there. Even just it being an empty lot is better now than what it used to.
I think it's a much better opportunity for Thatcher now. That was a tough thing to have right in the center of your district. Yeah. So, but yes, so if you create a district, you can have an entertainment district that could tax. But to be quite frank, is
that what a red light district is? Just Is that something?
If you don't know what that is, Isaac, we can have that conversation sometime.
I'm sorry.
But the way, to be frank, in our community, there is a distaste for additional taxes, especially that would be based off of your property. And so getting a district created and then actually having that district have success getting a tax passed would be really hard. And so, I mean, that's just being truthful.
Right.
Other locales have had better luck because of whatever situation they were in. But I think if you go back and look at what happened with the jail when they built that, our community is that barely passed. And that was some real heavy lifting by the people who got that done. And that was a huge necessity. I wonder if people would be able to make the leap to something that a lot of people would say that's not a necessity.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
Compared to other places, we are pretty privileged with what our tax rate is. I don't think we pay it. I'm not advocating taxes right now. I mean, and yeah, it's funny that you say that we have a distaste for raised taxes when either our taxes are bad.
No,
yeah,
I agree with you. I've had this conversation with a lot of people. I get it. I don't want to, every April 15th or whenever I do my taxes, if I owe anything, I hate it.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I also am not a huge fan of the bureaucracy of government.
right.
But everything serves a purpose. And right now, I'm driving on the highway through Thatcher and even in Safford. That thing's a mess.
Yeah.
It's a disaster. Well, the reason that there isn't more funds for road construction is because Arizona has refused to raise the gas tax in like 50 years. It's set at a specific rate, and it's not a percentage, it's a rate. And you've seen costs do this, and this rate is staying the same. At some point, you got to find a way to pay for it, and that's how that happens.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is, and as unpopular as this may sound sometimes, there are times, sorry, that was grammatically incorrect. There are times where, taxes are beneficial.
Right.
And
I think that people will just have a similar opinion as I do. Is I just wish more of my taxes went to my community.
no, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And that's the funny part is a tax through a district. It would all go directly to your community. I personally am with you. I would not have a hard time paying that tax.
Yeah.
The federal tax, I don't know where that's going. So I'm not as big of a fan of that.
No idea.
Yeah.
When do we get an audit?
Well, that's not me.
Cool. Do you have anything else that you want to share about Victor? Anything you want to plug? Anything like that?
I'll do a little commercial in that if you're a business owner and you have employees who have a need, a lot of business owners immediately just assume that benefits are too expensive for them. Benefits can be expensive, but it's every business owner I've talked to who's had that mentality is amazed at how their view of what they thought they would be looking at is not the reality.
Mm-hmm.
And there are options where you can even offer your employees benefits that will cost you as an employer nothing. Mm-hmm. And so if you have any desire or needs to provide something that, even if it's just a dental and vision plan or things that would help, give us a call, 428-0860, and we can at least have the conversation. there's no, if you talk to us, that doesn't mean you're signing up for benefits. It's just a conversation of seeing how we can help. And there are affordable ways to give your employees options.
And is that any size of business? A business constitute 2 people that they might have an option for them?
One of your previous guests was my first official client, and that was Vance Bryce at the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
And his group was 2.
Yeah.
We can't go below 2.
Right.
You got to have 2 for it to be a group. But we do groups of 2 on up.
Awesome. That is really good information to know. Yeah. Well, cool. Appreciate your time. It's a great conversation. I had a great time.
I enjoy it. I love opportunities to talk. I'm way too good at that. My wife says I'm very gifted in that regard. And
yeah.
In that I can kill a lot of time. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, man.
You bet.
Cool. Like Gucci.